When I was about in fifth grade, so 11 to 12 years old, I was really lucky that my Romanian school offered this really fun extracurricular coding class. And I say fun because I was really into math at the time. So to me, it sounded like a very fun opportunity. Plus, they were, advertising that they're going to help us code a little game that was inspired by Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which was one of my favorite TV shows at the time. So I was hooked. I went to my parents and I begged them to let me go to this class. And I continued taking that class after hours, after school for a few months. We did end up writing that game. It was really fun with different questions, multiple choices, and I was hooked. I decided to major in computer science in high school in Romania. Even at that time, like we had majors in Romania for high school. So computer science and math were my two majors. And I continued down that path. So finishing high school in Romania, I had multiple career paths or like next steps I could take. And one of them was to continue with college in Romania. But it would have been very tough for me because at the very young age of 17, 18, you would have had to decide what you wanted to be when you grow up, your job basically. And I didn't feel like I was ready to make that decision at that age. And when I was a junior in college, in high school, so around 17, I heard about liberal arts colleges in the United States and the fact that you could have an undecided major and that you could explore while you're in college and figure out what your passion really was. So again, I went to my parents and I asked if I could take the SATs, which was definitely a big financial investment for us, and have this opportunity to maybe have a scholarship and come to the United States for college. And my parents were super, super supportive. They put all of their savings in me getting, a professor that could coach me for the SATs in Romania, which is not a standard test you take. And I took the tests. I did really well. And because, we weren't this very affluent family by any means, I got to apply for a scholarship and I got pretty much a full ride to Mount Holyoke College, which was absolutely amazing. And I came to the US. I think I was 18 at that time, the first time I had ever come to the United States. I still remember to this day, it was like dark when our bus pulled in front of the dorm that I was going to live in, and I'll never forget that day. But it was just this amazing opportunity for me because I did come to the US and to college, to Mount Holyoke College, thinking I wanted to be an architect because I loved math. I also loved art. And I thought that was the perfect marriage of the two. And I had kind of put computer science to the side for my freshman year. But, in talking with other students and starting to think about internships and potential jobs, I was like, I don't want to give up computer science. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. So I just started taking more classes again as a sophomore. And what do you know, that ended up being like my full second major alongside architecture. And I am so, so glad that I continued taking computer science classes and really found like my full passion like while I was in college too with the classes that I took. So coming to Vistaprint, which I ended up here by attending a career fair when I was in college and fell in love with some of the engineers and the teams that came to present at the career fair and was really inspired by them. So I knew like once I started and my first day came along that I was going to be surrounded by really, really smart people. And plus, I had the opportunity to vote for what team I wanted to be on after seeing a few different pitches. So I really felt like, I ended up with the team that was, that I was really going to gel well with. And that was really the case. And truly, I was surrounded by very smart colleagues. So that was one of the most rewarding aspects of being a software engineer at Vistaprint. Something else that was super rewarding that I never imagined is that they gave me a lot of responsibility and autonomy, even though I was a software engineer straight out of college. So within a year, I think I had built enough trust and I was given projects to work on where I had to do a lot of discovery and I had to work with our manufacturing plants in that case to understand their use cases and like figure out what code like would help them the most. And I was so thankful for the opportunities that I was given to kind of carve my own path and figure out some of those things on my own. It really allowed me to grow as a software engineer. That something I never imagined was like with career growth, some of your peers and peer relationships change over time. So when I first started straight out of college, I was a software engineer one, entry level. After a few years, I ended up becoming a squad lead. So I was leading a team of software engineers. So the squad lead that was previously my squad lead, they became my peer in that case, like we were peers. And then later on, I actually took a few steps forward and I became their manager a couple of years after. So there's just a lot of different transitions that happened with career growth, and I had to figure out how to kind of go from having someone as my manager to them being my peer and me being their manager, and how to kind of establish boundaries, like talk about like how I would then help them grow. That was a very different dynamic over time that I had to navigate, and it was definitely challenging. And I think establishing those boundaries over time is what helped the most, but it took me some time to figure that out. From software engineering to product management was pretty organic for me. It wasn't something that happened overnight. As a software engineer, I mentioned I had become a squad lead. And at that time, I went to my product manager and I said, I really wanted to better understand our customers and the customer problems we were solving for them, what features could help improve their lives. At that time, we were working on pricing software. So invoicing capabilities, way to stores costs for products. So nothing critical in people's lives, but definitely something I was really passionate about and I wanted to do better for our customers. So I started shadowing my product manager in different customer meetings. And over time, I felt comfortable like asking questions, like I was demoing our product too. And this happened over a period of months and months. And it was actually my manager at the time who came to me and said, Andreea, like you've been working with your product manager very closely. You're doing a really great job. There's actually an opportunity in my organization to have another product manager, and she really saw something in me and thought that that was something I could be great at. And she also offered to mentor me then further in being a product manager. So I remember that phone call because I was on vacation when she called me and mentioned all this. And I said, can I call you back the next day? And I really wanted to think through this one. I had been coding and been a software engineer ever since that fifth grade. I knew like moving into product management would be a big step because in my mind, it would be tough to transition back into software engineering if I wasn't in it day in and day out. So I really wanted to think through it, but I ended up calling back the next day and I said yes. And I said yes because I really stopped and thought about my strengths as a software engineer. And it was never like me going very deep and becoming an expert in one particular area of being a software engineer. That wasn't my strength and not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a scientist down the line or like an architect. I was always better a breadth of knowledge as a software engineer, knowing the different capabilities that we were building for what customer, what were other teams working on, what solutions could come together from the things that we were all building. And with that in mind, I was like, I think that as a product manager, I could do even more of that. And I just wanted to see what would come of it. So in July 2023, the Vistaprint product development organization went through what we call this empowered product team transformation, very much kind of following guidance from Marty Keegan, who wrote a lot of books on inspired, empowered. And what it basically means is that our product teams, which are usually formed of a product manager, a team of engineers, and usually a UX designer as well, it means we would assign customer problems for them then to figure out how to solve instead of giving them direct features to build. So kind of allowing that creativity while giving them that sandbox, that customer problem that they need to focus on. So as we've been going through this transformation, I've been a product leader during this transformation, and one of the goals for myself and for some of the other product leaders that are my peers was to, one, write a 5-year product vision that could be kind of like that North Star. What are all of our product teams? What do they need to have in their mind's eye, like when they're building things, when they're thinking about what this all will evolve into? Have that vision written down, and our UX leaders also put together a vision type around that to also visually kind of see what that would all look like. So a 5-year product vision was one of the things that I was responsible for a year or so ago writing. And then every year, all of the product leaders, together with our head of product, Christina Wick, we also draft the product strategy. And that is for that year's kind of setting out the strategic bets that all of our teams would need to kind of swarm around in that year. And there's a lot that goes into writing down the product strategy. It starts with working with each of our domains, which are formed of several product teams, and each of the domains kind of think about what are opportunities in their space, and then myself and other leaders kind of curate those opportunities. We kind of pull in different insights, competitive insights, industry insights, context that we have to say these are the areas that we actually do need to double down in. What else have we missed? And then kind of building up that overall product strategy, working a lot with our stakeholders. So as product teams, we don't work alone. We have marketing partners, we have merchandising partners, we have pricing strategists, we have teams that work on new product introduction. We need to work with all of those functional leaders to pull in their insights and what they see as opportunities, and how can the product team support all of that as well. So there's a lot of different inputs and input streams that come into drafting like an overall product strategy and focusing us for the year. And day in, day out, I think one of the biggest responsibilities that I have is really coaching the leaders on my team who then coach their team members. This is tough, and it's one of those job responsibilities that I try to take pretty seriously, whether that's with retros with the teams, in one-on-ones with my team members. And I'm not perfect at it by any means. I still have so much to learn when it comes to coaching, especially not being too hands-on and not doing a lot of the things myself, and kind of setting up those guidelines for the team members on my team to do that well. So even right now, like we're working on a few PR FAQs. These are press releases talking about how our products are going to evolve and trying to give feedback. I would just say start as early as possible and kind of seize any opportunity that's related to computer science or learning how to code. I mean, I was telling in my story, I started when I was in 5th grade. Maybe, sometimes like you won't have an opportunity to start as early as I did. But if you're in college or taking classes and there's, boot camps or free classes or online classes, like I would really lean into taking that computer science class, because it can be helpful no matter the industry that you end up going in. And I know if you have children as well, like I have a 1-year-old daughter now, and I can truly say that like I really want to kind of cultivate that passion like early for her. So I would also encourage like, kind of working with kids. And if you are passionate about computer science, maybe, being an advocate for CS, like lending your time to teach CS as well. That's something that I've tried to do even when I was in college, kind of TAing classes and like working with a lot of students to try and plant the seed about computer science and like how it could really help. The other thing that I would say, as if you're a young aspiring tech professional as well, or thinking about switching careers and getting more into tech, is to not worry too much about not having the same tech background or years behind you as others do. Because I think if you have that mind for problem solving and you find yourself really interested in that, I think you will see that taking a class or two, like you'll really kind of get the gist of it, and you'll get into coding pretty quickly. I don't think the barrier to entry is that high. Again, especially if you have that interest and that mind for it. So don't worry too much about, playing years of catch up. And I would just focus on like what's ahead of you. And again, playing to what your strengths are, because within a team, we don't all have to be the same, and we don't have to have the same strengths and backgrounds. Actually, some of the most successful product teams that I work with, like, people come from very different backgrounds.